Do you think they'd end up back in Utah? I don't know. I don't know. I know that most of Robyn's family is in Utah, and about half of dad's family is in Utah, and the other half is in Wyoming. And I think actually there's here and there sprinkles around the.
I think they'd end up in Oklahoma.
Oklahoma?
Yep, your
You
dad.
think that they're going to go to Oklahoma? What's in Oklahoma?
Your dad likes it.
Yeah, but just because he has a best friend that lives in Oklahoma that he's visited, no. They better not.
He likes the low cost of living.
Hey everyone, it's Kody from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It's Thursday, May 25th, 2023. I hope you are having a wonderful day. I apologize. I'm still going to be doing voiceovers for the foreseeable future, so please bear with me. I will be back as soon as things get better with my appearance. So when it comes to Kody Brown and Robyn Brown, we know that Kody has the propensity to move around a lot. And his reasons for moving are largely related to finances. They left Wyoming because their home was foreclosed on. Kody got a job in Utah where he could get more employment and better wages. And so he finagled Miss Janelle to come back into the family, and they went ahead and moved to Utah. Kody's house actually is now owned by another polygamist who has this interesting group that's not a church but kind of culty. And the women that live in the house actually blog about living in the house. So Kody and Robyn unlikely to move back to Utah, according to Tony, because it's just dang near too expensive. Now, Kody would love to say that he's not going back to Utah because Utah hates him and they are arresting polygamists, and he's the most, visible polygamist out there. But theoretically, Kody is not a polygamist anymore, and he's therefore not a part of a polygamous church, though he is an independent. I don't know what his plans are, but he has no reason not to move back to Utah. But Tony thinks it's too expensive. So his decision to move, though, it kind of coincides right now with some legal issues that are going on in Arizona. Arizona lawmakers are cracking down on polygamists, and there's been a lot of heat on another group associated with the polygamy world, the FLDS, an offshoot of the group, with a guy named Samuel Bateman. And there was this massive indictment that was actually released yesterday, superseding with him and 10 of his followers. And so Kody might be uncomfortable being in Arizona if he plans to maintain plural marriage, because Arizona prosecutors and the FBI have been, I've never seen anything like this with the total number that have been indicted. And it's pretty telling that they are not going to be doing things business as usual with ignoring what happens in these worlds. So Kody might have a lot of reasons to move, and polygamy could be one of them. But also going broke is another one too. So let's dive into today's topic. Before we do, can you please do me a big favor and give this video a thumbs up? Also, please subscribe to my channel if you've not yet subscribed by clicking on the subscribe button down below. Make sure to ring the bell if you'd like to get notified of any time I go live or new content loads, and make sure to leave a comment if you have something to say, and share this video with your friends. Kody and Robyn currently reside in Flagstaff, Arizona, which is a actual town that has a college, not a ton of jobs according to reviews that I've looked at for the city. It's a small town kind of nestled in the mountains. It has a small town feel with a college vibe, and a lot of people that go there to get away from Phoenix in the summer heat. They have snow for skiing in the winter, so a lot of people go there for skiing. And the neighborhood that Kody lives in, one of his neighbors actually built a home that's you can rent if you want to stay on Coyote Pass. So one of his neighbors that recently built a home built this beautiful, like 3,200 square foot home, nestled sort of up the hill from where Kody and Robyn's and property currently is. And you can rent it for like around $800 a night. So in the whole house. And the option says stay at Coyote Pass. So that should give you kind of an understanding of like, yes, where they're building would be ideal for homes, but they're going to have Airbnbers like staying at this property. It's a vacation area. And a lot of the people that apparently are buying property in that area are building vacation homes. Kody and Robyn haven't built anything. Their property isn't on the market, and the expiration date of that property is coming up in June with the promise of the money due on that land. So Kody and Robyn could very well be considering a move. And the topic of moving has been a very big heated conversation when Mykelti and Tony go live on their Patreon. Now I understand some people don't love Tony and Mykelti, but I will say that Tony tends to be a little bit more realistic, and while he doesn't see things exactly the same way as Mykelti does, he will say what he thinks and what he feels, and he doesn't really hold back on that. So some people think that he just kisses Kody's butt. I don't see that. I think of Tony as more neutral. But he agreed with things. They recently watched the episode of where they talked about the divorce when Christine sat everyone down. And Tony sided with Christine in this. So he said that it really shouldn't have mattered and doesn't matter if Christine wants to talk to a million people about how she's feeling in her life, that she should be able to speak to people that she loves and talk to them when she's going through a tough time. And if that includes her marriage, she has a right to do that. And so he felt that Kody was completely in the wrong with this idea that Kody getting mad at her for talking to the kids. And Mykelti flat out said that it wasn't her mom coming to her to talk with her, but rather the kids noticing that their marriage was off. Mykelti said as soon as she got together with Tony and saw what a real marriage was like and what a real relationship was like, she approached her mom and talked to her mom about her mom's relationship with Kody and telling her, like, you don't have this kind of relationship. It's not there. She said the same types of conversations happened with Mitch and Aspen, as well as with Maddie and Caleb, and all of them being adults shared their feelings with their mom. It wasn't Christine approaching them, but rather them approaching Christine. So they denied that Christine was poisoned or Christine poisoned the kids against them, and rather the kids noticed that, like, this isn't working. You guys don't have something. You guys would probably be better not being together. But Kody and Robyn moving now is an interesting idea because, one, the property due date, the date of the loan, it's over in June. So they have to come up with the money that's due to the lender or they lose the lots. And with that being said, they haven't pulled any permits. They have no intention to build, and they own a home already in Flagstaff that meets their needs. But it's very expensive, and Kody and Robyn no longer have the income of the other wives to leech off of now that they've left the family. And because of that, they have to figure out what they're going to do. Tony has been saying that in his conversations with Kody for the last several weeks and months, Kody has been really talking about how he needs to get out of Flagstaff and they need to find something that's cheaper and less expensive. And Robyn is obviously not on board with this idea about moving because she doesn't want to move. So they're fighting about moving to Flagstaff, but Tony brought up this Oklahoma seemingly out of the blue.
So quickly.
What's another state that's low cost of living that agrees with your dad's values?
The thing is, I don't think that
Wyoming?
if my dad moved again, period, I think it would be to St. George. It'd be back to Utah.
I don't think St. George.
Robyn's mom is in St. George.
It's too expensive.
It's too expensive, but it's cheaper than Flagstaff.
Still too expensive.
I have watched almost every one of the Patreons that they have, and honestly, they talk about moving on almost every single one. And this is the first time that Tony has brought up Oklahoma, and that could be very well because he had a conversation with Kody recently. One of the things that Tony has mentioned repeatedly is that Kody gripes about the cost of living in Flagstaff. He wants to go somewhere where there's a lower cost of living, where he can get a more affordable home and where he can live on less money, which to me is telling me that Kody is realizing, oh my God, my nest egg or I've lost my ladies, right? I don't have people working for me. I can't grift off them anymore. I'm going to have to figure out how I'm either going to pay for this house and this land, or I gotta move somewhere where I can afford things. Oklahoma is an interesting choice because his friend Brian Colwell lives in Oklahoma. So Oklahoma is obviously a red state. I don't know necessarily like what their laws are around polygamy. It's not generally a state known for the polygamists to end up in, although, you know, we should remember that Warren Jeffs ended up in Texas at one point, though they're not there in Texas anymore. But it is it's a famous red state. It has conservative legislators. It's got a conservative government. So Kody's going to be all about that. With conservative governments come less hands on people's lives. And Kody wants to be in a world where nobody tells him what to do. I don't know what the gun laws are like in Oklahoma, but I do know that Arizona, while not, Flagstaff is a liberal town, and Arizona recently was a liberal state in that they voted Joe Biden as president for one of the first times in a long time, but is historically a red state. But Arizona is changing as people move away from California into Arizona. So that could be changing the political scope there, which might make Kody uncomfortable. But something that might make Kody even more uncomfortable is what's happening right now in Mojave County and Coconino County where he lives. And I don't know if you pay attention to the news, but there is a humongous case that's actually based in Coconino County, and it's related to polygamy. And a superseding indictment actually just came out today. I have been following this story. If you don't follow me over on my Instagram and on my Facebook, and that's generally where I talk about it there. But Samuel Bateman, who is a quote unquote prophet, he decided that he was the prophet, that Warren Jeffs was no longer the prophet. Obviously, we know that Warren Jeffs is serving life in prison. And around 2019, according to this indictment, Samuel decided that he was the prophet and began telling his friends and followers that that was what he wanted. But the FBI says that, according to this indictment and according to the U.S. attorneys, that this was a ruse for Samuel so that he could have relationships with underage girls. And this indictment is massive. Like, when we think about Warren Jeffs, we understand the scope of how controlling he was. And while Samuel Bateman's group is much smaller, the mere number of charges that they're alleging in coordination to these 11 people there's over 57 counts in the superseding indictment. And almost all of them are relating to crimes against children and marrying underage girls, and they're even going after the women. So not even men, it's not just the men that are being held accountable in this situation, but also the women. And Sam and his friends, who became his followers, they handed over their daughters to him. And he was involved in all of these really awful things to these poor girls. And these little girls were also kidnapped from DCFS custody out of Arizona and brought to Washington in December. So 3 of his adult wives are facing those types of charges. In the indictment, one of his followers was like, they were basically insinuating that he bought him a Bentley so he could get access to kids. And then another one guy gave him a Range Rover, bought him a Range Rover so he could get access to the kids. And they were transporting these girls like over so many states, and these poor girls, it's been probably a nightmare for them, but they are so brave because this superseding indictment is because one of Sam's followers is a cooperating witness. And then also because these brave little girls actually, in interviews with the FBI and with forensic psychologist shared what happened to them. And so it's because they were removed from their families and able to actually speak to professionals in a safe space, they're actually going to get justice. So, you know, when you think about something as close to home as that to Kody, this is a national story. This puts Kody in a town in the center of a national story that's all over the news right now, related to a man that's a polygamist from the FLDS. And it's exactly the kind of publicity that Kody's going to want to avoid. Like, he's not going to want to be associated or affiliated to anything like that. When the Warren Jeff stuff was going on, the polygamists, the AUB needed to like try to craft this narrative that they weren't like them. So we're going to try to tell you that we're like the sister wives and we're benign. And now with this, you're seeing another group associated with the FLDS, but it's again, Kody's group comes from the FLDS. I want to remind you that. And Kody, even though they claim they're not doing these kinds of things, their group, or his group of origin, AUB, has a history of doing very similar things with marrying underage girls. And so when you look at it in that context, like, there's this now huge lens on this area of Arizona, and they're not far from Coconino it's in northern Arizona, but Mojave County is where Colorado City is, where Short Creek is. So he's not super far from where the FLDS is located. And prosecutors here are sending a message. Before, with Warren Jeffs, there was a lot of people that were never charged, specifically the women. Like, there was women in this group connected to Warren doing really terrible things to some of these little girls, and they were never charged. And in this case, the women that were doing things, even at the direction of Sam, and participating in things, even at the direction of Sam, are being charged. So the message being sent here by the FBI is like, we literally don't care if there's some prophet telling you to do stuff. If you commit a crime, you will be held accountable. And that's a different stance that they've taken in the past. Generally, it's been the kingpin they go after, not the underlings. In this case, they're going after all of them. And so when you think of that and you think of Kody, he's not safe if he wants to be a polygamist in Arizona anymore. He's not safe if he wants to take another wife, because now you have U.S. attorneys proving that we're not effing around anymore. We're going to prosecute these guys. And even in Utah, you're seeing polygamists going on trial for doing things to children as well. So if Kody wants to be a polygamist and take more wives, he's going to have to find a new place to live. And yes, they don't go after all polygamists, but with the way that the laws have changed in Utah, while it's decriminalized, it's really opened up polygamists to become more bold with their actions. And I think they're being stupid. They think that they can get away with so much more now because it's decriminalized, when in truth, the decriminalization makes it easier for the women to report because they won't get in trouble. And it makes it easier for people to report that are involved in that world because they also won't get in trouble for reporting. So while I'm not a huge fan of decriminalization, in some cases, I think it might help. It's helping because you're seeing stuff like this happening where people are reporting this, and you have more and more people leaving these cultures that are seeing this happening, that are reporting it. And so these guys that want to lead these very bad lifestyles, and they say it's about faith, but I don't ever believe that. I know they have a faith that goes along with it, but again, I don't believe that. I believe yes, there's a level of indoctrination, but they know what they're doing is wrong. As evidenced by the indictment for Samuel Bateman, they knew what they were doing was wrong, and they were lying to the police about it. If you believed wholeheartedly in what you were doing, you wouldn't lie to law enforcement about what's going on. You wouldn't deny things that are happening. If you believe that that's what your calling is, and you know it's okay to live that way, you wouldn't lie about it. But if they're lying to law enforcement and trying to obstruct justice, they know what they're doing is wrong. So, when you think of it in that context, if Kody has things that he wants to hide, or if he wants to go into polygamy, Arizona isn't a safe space any more than Utah is for him. He wasn't chased out of Utah. I mean, he wasn't. And at that time, there was a lot less, like, prosecutors at that time were not charging people. There's a new attorney general, and there's new people in Arizona that are taking this stuff seriously now. And it's not in 2023, we're finally seeing people held accountable. So Kody, if he wants to practice this, needs to start to think about other options. Is he going to stay in Arizona where it's expensive to live and he has this massive case now that's going to be in the news for probably years? And not to mention Samuel Bateman was caught in Flagstaff. I mean, there's just so many optics here that don't look good for Kody. So long story short, Kody and Samuel Bateman are not connected, but you can't ignore the fact that Kody's looking to escape and move, and he wants to go to a state that's not affiliated with Utah or Arizona. He wants to go to Oklahoma. Well, that's convenient. There's not a lot of polygamists there. So would he be more left alone? Well, he's not safe in Arizona anymore, I'll tell you that. So I actually could see them moving to Oklahoma. I could see them moving. Heck, I could see them moving to a lot of places other than Utah or Arizona, and I can 100% see them moving in the next year. But Tony is convinced that they are going to move. Kody needs to find something cheaper, and he needs to get away from law enforcement. Much like he needed to get away from law enforcement when they moved not long after the mass event that occurred at that concert, and Kody being someone that sells products that were used in these types of like in that event, he wanted to go somewhere where his rights weren't going to be dampened, and that happened to be in Arizona. And now it sounds like he might be looking to go to Oklahoma. And his moves generally don't just happen because he gets an itch. There's usually a political reason, a criminal reason, or he's escaping debt. In this case, it could be he wants to get away from the debt. And it also could be he wants to get away from law enforcement. So tell me what your thoughts are about this as well as if you tell me what your thoughts are about all of this. I have posted the indictment over on my Facebook and on my Instagram stories. I have a lot of FLDS people that help me with these stories. And if you're from the FLDS and you have something to share, make sure to reach out to me. But I do want to thank all of my ex-FLDS members that consistently send me information so that I can report on these stories. All right, you guys, tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.